This movie is going to make some people feel a little uncomfortable. And I say good. Here are my immediate thoughts on Conclave. Hey everyone, this is Lenny here. So I just got out of Conclave. This is the new religious political thriller that is directed by Edward Berger, who directed the All Quiet on the Western Front remake, which I loved. This is based off of the novel of the same name from 2016, written by Robert Harris. And this stars Ralph Fiennes. And Ralph Fiennes is one of my favorite actors. I've said that on the channel many times. Just last year, he was in The Menu, which I absolutely loved. Schindler's List, one of my favorite movies of all time, and he played an outstanding villain. But, things like Strange Days, that is so underrated. He was so incredible in that film. Obviously he's played M in the latest batch of Bond movies, and Voldemort after the He Who Shall Not Be Named in the Harry Potter movies. His range is so diverse, and he was actually the perfect person to play the character of Thomas. And Thomas is the dean of College of Cardinals, and he is tasked with running the conclave after the death of the Pope. And the cardinals from around the world, they lock themselves within the Vatican and the Sistine Chapel to vote on a new pope. And Edward Berger is really great in taking something that seems pretty mundane, like the voting of a new pope, and turning this into this political intrigue thriller. I would have been perfectly okay with this being a Netflix miniseries, because this was some juicy ass shit. There was some high tension and some great melodrama on top of some fantastic acting. This is a great cast here. John Lithgow, Stanley Tucci, Isabella Rossellini, Sergio Castellitto. He is great. He plays one of the cardinals who's running for pope, and he has more of a conservative bent, and he's kind of the antithesis to Stanley Tucci's cardinal, who's a little bit more progressive. And the Roman Catholic Church is, has taken a more progressive stance over the last few years in terms of accepting homosexuals and being a little bit more liberal in terms of their doctrine and how they their outreach towards the world. And there's an internal struggle, and the movie gets into the politics of that cultural battle between cardinals. There's one cardinal played by Lucian Msati, and he would be the first black pope if voted. So that comes into play, and there's a little bit of like racism. There's a scene of like blatant racism that I was like, oh my god, you can't be a cardinal. What are you doing here? But it gets into the weaponization of religion, and some people will watch certain elements of this movie, or they'll hear certain elements of this movie, and they'll think that this movie is anti-religion, especially since Ralph Fiennes' character as this dean of cardinals is having a crisis of faith. And he actually has a really great monologue where he talks about how he is more hoping that whoever is voted as pope doesn't have certainty. He has a little bit of doubt, because doubt is something that goes hand in hand with faith. This movie is really about faith and what it means to each individual person, and at the same time what that means for each person that wants to be pope. And it is absolutely insane seeing the different political machinations, the backstabbing, and everyone acts all high and mighty, but there's all these whispers in the background about all these different cardinals and what they do, and whether they're in the right, or whether they're the right person to be the pope based on their belief system, or based on actions they've taken in the past, or things they've said in the past. And it's just it's intriguing. and it's entertaining, and it's bolstered by some tremendous acting, some outstanding cinematography. This movie looks tremendous. I expect this to get some Oscar love or some award nominations in terms of cinematography. The script is great. The dialogue is very natural. Everyone talks in a very natural way, and it doesn't sound like exposition, even though what they're saying is basically exposition. This is a very talky movie. So if you're someone that loves action movies and likes to see things blow up and that's your thing, there's nothing wrong with that. But this isn't your movie. I'm just going to say that straight up. This is a very talky movie. And Edward Berger is really great in terms of, one, directing his actors, but two, also moving the camera. There are times where, one, it feels like he's paying homage to filmmakers like Ingmar Bergman or Jonathan Demme, where he'll do like extreme close-ups of faces to really accentuate, their state of mind. Also to accentuate kind of the claustrophobic nature of the situation. All of these cardinals are basically locked in and shut in the Sistine Chapel to cast these votes to vote for a new pope. But then also Berger would take the camera and move all around the Sistine Chapel. And it feels very Aaron Sorkin-y in terms of, walking and talking with these cardinals and hearing all of, their concerns and just going through the drama and all of these secrets and twists and turns that are revealed of all of these different characters. And all of them are three-dimensional. They all have viable claims to be pope in their own way. These are all guys and we have to talk about this because the Roman Catholic Church, in terms of what is being structured here, is very patriarchal. These are all men that are trying to gain power of being one of the most famous people and one of the most powerful and one of the most influential, if not the most influential and powerful in the world. The movie gets into the kind of burden that is in terms of being the Pope and what kind of burden it is as well to be someone that follows the doctrine of the church, especially in modern times. And, there's this whole thing about, more people leaving the church year by year or, just not adhering to a specific religion. And there's just a lot of things going on in the world, and that's a separate conversation in itself. But the film does dive into the church's perception to the outside world and voting in a pope that reflects what the Roman Catholic Church wants to convey to the rest of the world. And do they want to be more progressive? Do they want to embrace diversity? Or do they want to go back into being more conservative and traditional? And Edward Berger's film and Robert Harris, in terms of his story, really gets into that dichotomy and what it means to be a traditional institution living in the modern era. Also, at the same time, understanding the sort of hypocrisy that some people in power in the religious hemisphere have when it comes to the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not a religious person, and I'm not going to get into much of a soapbox, but, we are sort of living in an era where there are individuals that are weaponizing the teachings of Jesus Christ and are weaponizing those teachings in a way to direct their hate and venom at those that they just don't like for whatever reason. And it's funny because we have a group of individuals that want to, or that see things in terms of, well, we need to get back to certain traditional values. When the teachings of Jesus wasn't about tradition, it was about what he called a new covenant. And I guess I've always seen the doctrine of Jesus as, and actually the movie gets into this too, which was actually really funny. But it's, I've always seen, and this isn't just with Christianity. This is just faith in general. It doesn't matter the doctrine or religion or faith or lack of faith or whatever it is that you believe or not believe. But it is inherently personal, first of all. You know, your own faith is your own, but it is also ever changing and growing as you grow and develop as a human being. And as time wears on, the hope, at least from my perspective, is that we would be able to use our faith and our works and our deeds based on what our belief system and our faith structure is to gain more empathy and to gain a greater understanding of our fellow human beings and to better understand what we can do to assist and help those in need. You know, this is the whole feed the poor, help the sick. You know, these are the teachings of Jesus, and these aren't you know, structured to just the teachings of Christianity. I mean, these are pretty basic tenets of humanity in terms of the golden rule: treat others the way you'd like to be treated. And Conclave gets into that struggle that the church would face, and that a lot of religious doctrines are facing nowadays when it comes to the weaponization of certain religions. And we're seeing this a lot around the world. And the weaponization of a lot of different faiths and cultures, just basically shouting down other people, saying that their God is greater than the other God, which is really funny because, you know, we live in one universe. So make the math, right? But Edward Berger does such a great job of taking the essence of what Robert Harris is trying to say in terms of the perception of the Catholic Church and the political ramifications of voting in a new pope and what that means. It was just so well done. And like I said, it was absolutely entertaining and riveting and suspenseful, because you would think something like this would be, you know, so absolutely boring and dull as dishwater at times. But I again, I think this was just really bolstered by the acting of everyone in this film. So I really, really enjoyed this. This is probably going to get some Oscar love for some acting. I wouldn't be surprised if Ralph Fiennes gets an Oscar nomination. I wouldn't be surprised if Edward Berger gets a nomination for director. I am pretty certain this is going to get a nomination for cinematography. This movie, like I said, looks fantastic. Looks fucking absolutely. And I love talking about movies that look great. And Conclave is one of those movies that looks absolutely fantastic. But again, the writing is fantastic as well. And, you know, I really appreciated the story. This was just a great time at the movies. If I was going to give this a rating, I'm just going to give this a blockbuster. I definitely recommend checking this out. If you're not able to see it in the theater, definitely check it out on streaming as soon as possible. I'm sure that you guys are going to hear about this movie a lot when award season really ramps up next year. But those are my initial thoughts and feelings on Conclave. What did you guys think of the movie? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.